early morning in the region of Westmanland, the jungle, full of magical animals, has just awoken. Here we see the cardiologist playing around with the ECG, constantly updating the bus information and trying to squeeze the last drop out of the patient's failing heart before they send them home, only to return in a couple of days. Ooh, and here we see a couple of Läkare, younglings, precarious of their surrounding and constantly changing places. Here we see an Läkare failing to stand up during the whole surgery. She probably won't survive the winter. Looking for the gynecologist. Ah, here we find her, the most hardcore surgeon able to withstand enormous amounts of blood, always at your cervix. And what do you call the deaf gynecologist? A lip reader. The orthopedic surgeon has found a unique way to adapt to its environment. Instead of using his brain, as most doctors do, he relies solely on muscular power. It's weightlift season, and in order to be recognized by the herd, these two young males must pass the orthopedic test. That is, bench weight plus IQ must exceed 200. Further down the savannah, we find the pediatrician. Spending the majority of their life primarily playing with the children, they have lost their original speech capabilities. Their calls, to our human ears, unintelligible gibberish. Here we see the unique display of a young pediatrician using the only medicament in their arsenal, Pigolin. Can you hear it? It's the sound the clinical physiologist makes when it's communicating. They vociferate solely by echo sounds. And close by, we hear the scrolling of the young nephrologist. They mostly spend their days looking at lab stats and fiddling with a dialysis machine. The ear, nose and throat doctor is hovering around plane 4, waiting for something important to happen, as long as it is supraclavicular. Ah, a distress call. Must be something really important, probably a nosebleed. Sitting alone in the emergency department, a young surgeon is waiting for their chance to show initiative. Although, having dreamt of becoming a trauma surgeon their whole life, tonight they will end up looking into a rectum through a small plastic tube. And here, a truly once-in-a-lifetime moment. In a chair by himself sits the clinical chemist, a species so rare it's almost mythical. This one mostly spends his day drinking coffee and snoozing. These are the most intimate pictures in the wild yet taken. On the outskirts of the jungle, we find a family doctor, doing a follow-up on the ocean of shit that is sent every day from the hospital. How they manage to survive is a mystery. On the other side of the spectrum, we find the anesthesiologist. Even though it is the middle of the night, it's still drinking coffee and trying to stay far away from patients that can talk. An alarm goes off and it has to run. But in its mind, it's still drinking coffee. Every day, at the sun's zenith, the Läkare can be found migrating to floor 11 to feed. Constantly having to adapt to new environments and never really knowing what they are doing, they find a brief respite under the wings of the ever-present hönsmamma, Åsa. The radiologist, having lived most of their life in total darkness, they have become hypersensitive to normal light and lost their ability to see colors other than 50 shades of grey. Here we see a young pathologist. As a matter of fact, this very specimen is actually 500 years old, but looks as young as any other doctor. This is, of course, due to the massive amounts of formalin they constantly surround themselves with.
Tjena, tjena.
Hej, hej.
The neurologist is doing its usual tests, the neurostatus.
Bra. Får kolla lite reflexerna.
No one really knows what is included in a full neurostatus, but either way, it will probably end up with a lumbar puncture and an MRI. And finally, in our little expedition, we see the psychiatrist. They live a good life on the other side of Adelsögatan. They have a very nice salary and live closest to the Sikh kebab. But that is the price they pay to slowly go insane themselves. We have on our expedition seen just a few of the specimens that live in the jungle of Västmanland. A marvelous jungle full of surprising animals. But there are, of course, many more animals which we haven't seen today. We tried to find the infectious disease doctor, but it was constantly answering calls for questions about antibiotics that the calling doctor should know since many years. This has been the Jungle of Westmanland. Thank you for watching.